The glittering world of professional wrestling blends the excitement of dangerous sports with gripping soap opera plots. Because the boundaries between performance and reality are constantly blurred, real-life connections are often brought into the ring, which has resulted in high-profile romances, contentious divorces, fame, wealth, and pressure. Let's now dive into the most startling separations in wrestling. Ric Flair and Leslie Goodman. The Nature Boy Ric Flair declared bankruptcy in July 2008. Flair had only gone through 2 divorces until then, so it's unclear how his finances are now that he's finished with his 4th. Flair has a pattern. He gets married to one lady, then his eye wanders and he gets a divorce to get married to someone else. Leslie Goodman was the first lady Flair did this to. They were married in 1971 and divorced in 1983 so he could wed Elizabeth Harrell. To marry Tiffany Vandermark, he got divorced in 2009 to make place for Jackie Beams. Flair divorced Harrell in 2006. This was at least a brief halt in the trend. Flair waited until 2018 to exchange rings with Wendy Barlow after divorcing Beams in 2014. Flair and Barlow made their split public in 2022. Stone Cold Steve Austin and Catherine Burris and Lady Blossom and Deborah Marshall. In millions of households throughout the globe, Stone Cold Steve Austin is a true hero. In his own house, Steve Austin has been a very different person. Austin publicly pursued a relationship with wrestler Lady Blossom, whom he married later that year. At the same time, his first marriage to Catherine Burris, his high school sweetheart, was dissolved in 1992 after less than 2 years. Following their divorce in May 1999, Austin and Lady Blossom had 2 kids together. In September 2000, Austin married Deborah Marshall for the 3rd time. After Marshall summoned the police to their house in June 2002, Austin was charged with and disciplined for domestic abuse. Austin and Marshall separated for 6 months before getting a divorce in February 2003. Since 2009, Austin has been wed to his 4th wife, Kristen Ferris. Hulk Hogan and Linda Claridge and Jennifer McDaniel. On December 18th, Linda Claridge and Hulk Hogan tied the knot in 1983. When Hogan won the WWE Championship a month later, Hulkamania officially began. Hogan rose to international fame and enormous money as a result. Following 26 years of marriage throughout Hogan's rise to fame, Claridge sued for divorce in 2007 after claiming Hogan was having an affair. Despite Hogan's denials of adultery, the courts ordered the wrestler to pay Claridge $7.5 million as part of the settlement. The divorce was completed in 2009. After starting a connection with Jennifer McDaniel through his divorce, Hogan married her in 2010. In 2021, Hogan and McDaniel announced their divorce on Twitter, ending their collaboration. Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth. From 1984 until 1992, Randy Poffo and Elizabeth Hewlett were wed in real life. Romantic plotlines and envious feuds were shown throughout the relationship between their wrestling characters, Miss Elizabeth and Macho Man Randy Savage, who were married in 1991, and were close collaborators until 1998. Their ability to put on such a convincing performance when they must have been splitting up is a testament to the wrestling community and the 2 actor-athletes. Carrie Lebetsky and Miss Elizabeth were married for a 2nd time in 1997 until 1999. 1999 saw the start of her 3rd marriage to Lex Luger, which ended in 2003 when Miss Elizabeth passed away. It wasn't until 2010 that Randy Savage remarried Lynn Payne. Savage stayed with Payne until the following year when he had a deadly heart attack. John Cena and Elizabeth Huberdeau. On July 11, 2009, Elizabeth Huberdeau and John Cena, childhood sweethearts, tied the knot. Cena surprised his wife with a divorce request after 1,025 days of marriage, and it took another 78 days for the split to be formalized. Naturally astonished and offended, Huberdeau retaliated by kicking back. She informed the court that her wrestler husband had been unfaithful for the 3 years they'd been together and made the divorce as tough as possible for him. Cena vowed never to get married again since the whole process was so unpleasant. Before popping the question in the ring at WrestleMania 33 to his fiancée and tag team partner, Nikki Bella, he had upheld his pledge for 5 years. The couple never reached the altar and broke up a year later, but Bella had responded yes. In October 2020, Cena and Shea Shirazada were married. Rob Van Dam and Sonia Delbeck. In 2001, Rob Van Dam, actual name Rob Zitkowski, left ECW to join WWF/WWE after being faithful to the organization until its closure. There he won a championship, then he won one in TNA Impact Wrestling. Additionally, he remained faithful to Sonia Delbeck, his wife, for 20 years. Van Dam took a lengthy break from wrestling to support Delbeck during her difficult time when she was stricken with cancer. Unfortunately, despite their best efforts, their marriage could not last forever. In 2016, Delbeck filed for divorce, the same year Van Dam was jailed for narcotics possession in Hanging Rock, Ohio. Although the couple's reason for splitting up is unclear, the divorce was finalized, and they've been legally separated since 2018. Van Dam has been married to fellow wrestler Katie Forbes since 2021. Goldust and Terry Reynolds and Molina Martelloni. Goldust's name was just Dustin Rhodes until 1995. He was accompanied in the 1996 Royal Rumble by a valet called Marlena while competing for WCW under the Goldust moniker. Rhodes' wife, Terry Reynolds, was Marlena's obvious choice. 1993 saw the couple get married. Despite living, working, and even moving to WWE together, they departed in 1999. Rhodes left WWE and returned to WCW for many years after the divorce, which left him distraught. In 2002, Rhodes attempted marriage a second time, this time to Molina Martelloni, but the two divorced after less than a year. On June 22, 2012, Goldust exchanged vows with Terrell Maria Roche, his third wife. Bret Hart and Julie Smadou and Cinzia Rota. The most well-known member of the renowned Hart Foundation family in wrestling, Bret the Hitman Hart, was one of the most adored wrestlers ever. While his career was still in its early stages, Hart married his first wife, Julie Smadou, in 1982 while working for his father's Canadian business, Stampede Wrestling. Hart and Smadou have 4 children and were married for over 20 years. Unfortunately, Smadou lost patience with Hart in 1998 after he was unfaithful on many occasions while traveling. After attempting to reconcile for 4 years, the couple filed for divorce on June 24, 2002. Hart had a bicycle accident and had a stroke a few hours later. Hart was married again in 2004, but he and Cinzia Rota split in 2007 because they couldn't agree on where to reside. Hart and Stephanie Washington have been married since 2010. Edge and Alana Morley and Lisa Ortiz. Edge, born Adam Copeland, enjoyed going through 2 expensive divorces in less than a year. Alana Morley, the sister of fellow Canadian wrestler Val Venus, was the Canadian's first spouse. November 8, 2001, saw the marriage of Edge and Morley. After 2.5 years, their divorce was finalized on March 10, 2004. Given that Edge got married again before the end of 2004, it's impossible to predict what caused Morley to file for divorce. Edge had a brief second marriage, almost immediately after exchanging vows with Lisa Ortiz. On October 21, 2004, he had an affair with Amy Dumas, also known as Lita, in the ring. On November 17, 2005, Edge and Ortiz have been divorced. Edge chose not to be married again until 2016 when he wed Beth Phoenix, another wrestler. Mark Mero and Sable. 2 more wrestlers have been Sable Rena Greek's spouses after she lost her first husband in a vehicle accident in 1991. This story's most important feature is that the 2 relationships overlapped with little space between them. In 1994, Greek married wrestler Mark Mero, who was born in New York, and during their marriage, Greek entered the ring. Before Sable's former separation from Mero, she started dating Brock Lesnar in 2003. Because of the encounter, Mero still doesn't like Lesnar. but Greek and Lesnar are still together today after getting married in 2006. Mero finally moved on too. In 2009, he got married to Darlene Spezzi. The following year, Mero released How to Be the Happiest Person on the Planet. Mero and Spezzi's bliss was short-lived as they were divorced in 2019. The Rock and Danny Garcia. We won't be ruining The Rock, so don't worry. This specific divorce narrative is as positive and healthy as the divorce itself. Danny Garcia and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson were married on May 3, 1997, a day after The Rock's 25th birthday, after the meeting while attending college. After being together for 12 years, they had a friendly divorce in 2008. They were just a failed marriage, no accusations of violence or infidelity. Garcia has been The Rock's business manager ever since, however, and their bond has endured. The couple's finances have skyrocketed since leaving the ring and going into the movies. Both of them have now been married again. The Rock married Lauren Hashian in 2019, while Garcia celebrated her marriage to Dave Renzi in 2014. Diamond Dallas Page and Kimberly Page. Originally named Page Joseph Falkenberg Jr., he officially adopted the name Dallas Page, which he'd used for wrestling since the early 1990s. Page married Kimberly Bacon on December 1, 1991. She was his valet in 1994 before becoming a wrestler in her way. Kimberly Page had a naked appearance in Playboy magazine in 1996. The photos entered the ring and were used to start a disagreement with the NWO and a rivalry between Diamond Dallas Page and Macho Man Randy Savage. For a cordial divorce in 2005, Mr. and Mrs. Page split up in 2004. After that, Diamond Dallas Page married Brenda Nair in 2015 and divorced again in 2020. Since 2021, he's been married to his third wife, Paige McMahon, now Paige Page. Kimberly Page hasn't found a partner. Batista and Glenda Bautista and Angie Bautista and Sarah Jade. Dave Bautista's ring name, Batista, has already gone through a divorce before he even entered a wrestling ring. After 8 years of marriage, Batista divorced his first wife, Glenda, in 1998. The couple had 2 kids together. He had a son with Angie, whose marriage was much more well-known. After Batista acknowledged that the accusations that he was having affairs with every woman in the WWE were partially accurate, he and Glenda got divorced in 2006. They'd been married since 1998. In 2015, Batista married competitive pole dancer Sarah Jade, deciding to try love again despite the costs of his second divorce. Additionally, this marriage dissolved in 2019, thus it wasn't to be the third time. Kevin Sullivan and Nancy Toffoloni. The terrible conclusion to Nancy Toffoloni's tale. The wrestler Chris Benoit, her third husband, killed her and her son Daniel before killing himself. Toffoloni had also had a difficult life before meeting Benoit. Before they met, wrestler Kevin Sullivan and wrestling manager Nancy Toffoloni were already married. Toffoloni had been with Jim Dowse for 3 years, while Sullivan had been with Deborah Stokes for 14. After both unions dissolved in 1984 and 1985, Sullivan and Toffoloni could be married in 1985. Violence and abuse were part of their turbulent 12-year marriage. Toffoloni once stabbed Sullivan with a knife. When Toffoloni cheated on Sullivan with Benoit, who would later murder her, the marriage was over. The Undertaker and Jody Lynn and Sarah Frank. The Texan Mark Calloway's character, The Undertaker, is among the most successful wrestlers in any franchise's history. The guy from Death Valley has won 21 consecutive WrestleMania titles, so surprisingly, he's found time for a romance, let alone 3 marriages and 2 divorces. After 10 years of marriage to Jody Lynn from 1989 to 1999, The Undertaker committed to Sarah Frank, with whom he cohabitated as a dead man from 2000 to 2007. The Undertaker may have been forgiven for avoiding the altar after 2 expensive divorces, but 2010 he wed female wrestler Michelle McCool. The Undertaker likely had to have a tattoo of Frank's name taken off his neck, which was maybe the most challenging part of all this broken love between Frank and McCool. Kurt Angle and Karen Smedley. Despite what this list would imply, the valet has sometimes been held accountable rather than the wrestler when a marriage fails. Kurt Angle won a gold medal in the Olympics before joining WWF/WWE in 1998. In 2006, the star relocated to TNA, where he met and married Karen Smedley, who later became his valet. Unfortunately for Angle, bringing his wife to work at TNA was a bad idea. Smedley started an affair with Jeff Jarrett, the head of the TNA. The rupture between Smedley and Angle wasn't one-sided. During their split, Angle sought solace elsewhere due to drug misuse issues. Smedley stayed with Jarrett after the 2008 divorce, and they were married in 2010. Angle did not remarry until 2012. The 53-year-old wrestler is now married to Giovanna Iannotti, an actress 19 years younger than Angle. Sting and Sue Boron. Regarding the duration of their marriage, Sting and Sue Boron might say that they've done rather well. From 1986 until 2010, they were together for 24 years. In addition, they had 3 kids together, a girl called Gracie, and 2 boys named Garrett Lee and Steven Jr. Sadly, Sting was a cheater and an addict, utterly different from the character he displayed in the ring. Sting cheated on Boron on several occasions throughout their relationship, and when the two were divorced, she finally had enough. Sting married Sabine Glenn in 2015 after being unmarried for 5 years. Drew McIntyre and Tiffany. In May 2010, Tiffany, whose actual name is Taryn Terrell, was married in Las Vegas to Drew McIntyre, a Scottish wrestler who was perhaps at the height of his stardom. That August, Tiffany was arrested for domestic abuse and was kicked off the WWE roster after a violent altercation with McIntyre. Only a year after the wrestling couple's marriage started, it was dissolved in May 2011. Both have since been married again. McIntyre exchanged vows with Caitlin Fronapple the following year, while Tiffany married Joseph Dryden in 2015. Charlotte Flair and Ricky Johnson and Tom Latimer. Ric Flair is a longtime wrestling icon who's been married 4 times and divorced from his 5th wife, Charlotte. His daughter has over 40 years of catching up, but she's doing well in the marital stakes by contrast. May 2010 saw the first marriage of Charlotte Flair and Ricky Johnson. In February 2013, they ended their relationship, which had lasted less than 3 years. Johnson would subsequently be accused of domestic abuse, which he strongly rejected. The English wrestler Bram, whose actual name is Tom Latimer, was Flair's spouse shortly after her divorce from Johnson, but the two parted ways in October 2015. Flair had been engaged to Manuel Andre Oropeza, a Mexican wrestler, since New Year's Day 2020. Randy Orton and Samantha Spano. The public, at least, doesn't know the reasons behind Randy Orton and Samantha Spano's divorce. In 2007, Orton married Spano, who had been a single superstar for 3 years after winning the WWF Heavyweight Championship at the age of 24. Despite having a kid together a year later, Orton and Spano's marriage was not sustained over the long run. Spano and Orton separated in late 2012, and in June 2013, they formalized their divorce. On November 14, 2015, Orton remarried Kimberly Kessler, a previous fan club member. Orton has a second kid from this marriage, and he and Kessler are still together today. Bray Wyatt and Samantha Rotunda. In 2012, Bray Wyatt and Samantha Rotunda tied the knot, while Wyatt was still figuring out his wrestling career. The couple had 2 kids together, and everything seemed to be going well for the 5 years. Then, in 2017, Rotunda claimed on social media that Wyatt was having an affair with JoJo Offerman, the announcer in the wrestling ring. After attempting to refute them, Wyatt had to acknowledge that the charges were accurate. 2017, Wyatt and Rotunda divorced, but their friendship with Offerman remained intact. Wyatt and Offerman are still considered a couple even though they're not married. They currently have 2 children together. If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon